Hello everyone and welcome to Build Order Win. My name is The Truth and today we are going to look at a Protoss versus Zerg build order video. Unfortunately, I did not feel like the Protoss versus Protoss build order that I wanted to show you was ready yet. I didn't really have enough replays to make a good enough video, or at least up to my standards for this channel. Because I also still want to make a build order video, I decided to come back to PvZ, but this time around we're going to be looking at a very gimmicky build, very aggressive build. You can go all in with this on two bases, or you can play a macro game, and we're going to, of course, look at all that good stuff as the video goes on. Before we start with the build order, and that is what we're going to start with as soon as I get through introducing the video. What you will be seeing as this video progresses is, of course, the build order. It is slightly different depending on what map you're playing on, and we will talk about that. We're going to see 3 replays after this game, so hopefully I can cover everything that you need to know within these 4 replays in total. We're going to talk about the key goals of the build, macro transitions, so if you do play macro, which on this map I don't suggest it, but we'll get into that. We'll talk about how to play macro, including scouting. We'll talk about why the build makes sense, and what makes a map good or bad for this build order. So, let's go ahead and hammer through the exact build order. I'm going to try to stay on track this time. I got like 15 minutes into this video and I realized I was just like pausing every other second to talk about some random stuff. So, first things first, you want to rally your 8th worker down to your natural to make this pylon. In fact, you can pull a worker slightly later than that to make the pylon, because if you rally your 8th worker, guess they're slightly early, not a big deal. Okay, we're going to chrono boost our Nexus. Now, normally at 12 supply, you can rally your probe to make your gateway, but because we're running all the way down here, you want to bring your probe a little bit earlier, and he's going to go ahead and make the gateway. And then he's going to go to the middle of the map. Basically, this probe is going to the proxy location, and I forgot to mention again, I did this last time, that this build is a proxy Stargate. And you have the opportunity to either do a 2-base all-in on the back of it, or go into a normal macro game. But, okay, so 13 gateway, we're going to make a 14 gas. After you make the gateway with this probe, you're gonna send it to your proxy location. Chrono boost on the Nexus. And then the next step is you want to chrono boost the Nexus, and then make the pylon that you're going to proxy at. But this game was a little bit weird. So on this map, I like to proxy in the middle, right on the watchtower. But his overlord is going to scout that. So instead, I end up proxying it up here. So it just delays that a little bit, but you do want to put it down when you can afford it after you chrono your Nexus again. Again, this isn't really a big deal, like chronoing right now before the pylon instead of after, but it's just, it'll give you just a little bit more money, which of course is a good thing. So, make the pylon. This probe can now scout your opponent, because your Stargate is going to come down at around 350, but you'll have time to scout a little bit. So okay, at 18 supply, we're going to make a cybernetics core. It's important to just always keep in mind that you're not making these buildings near your Nexus, so you have to always think to run your probe down here a little bit earlier than normal. Okay, after your cybernetics core, you make a assimilator. I believe this was on 19 supply. You do want to make this as soon as you can afford it after the assimilator, and we'll talk about why that's important later. Okay, and then you're making a zealot when you can afford it. Do not cut workers for anything except for the assimilator, except for the second assimilator. Don't put foreign gas, of course. And then at around 350, you want to make a Stargate. This timing does not matter too much because you're not going to make a unit out of it as soon as it's done. There's going to be a little bit of a time gap in there. But okay, so we're not using another chrono. and we're going to stop making workers when we have 14 on minerals. The reason is so we have 2 supply left open for Mothership Core, and that'll max us out on our supply count. Our Zealot has come out, and notice we're not starting Warp Gate at any point in the near future. You need the gas for your Stargate units. Okay, and then as soon as you have the money, you're going to pull a worker to go make your natural. So he's on his way down there right now, of course. And then, okay, actually we'll talk about this in... We're going to look at this replay starting from near the beginning and go more in depth, but for now we're going to stick with the build order. So Nexus has come down. Right here I make a mistake. Your next pylon should be on this Stargate. It's in case your opponent scouts out your Stargate and tries to unpower the pylons, you want to make sure you can keep the Stargate powered. So, okay. But then, so in this game, I'm assuming I'll make my next pylon up here. You just want to do this in the reverse order. This pylon should be here, but later. It should be the next one that you make. Okay? As soon as this pylon finishes, which should be here, just going to say that again, you want to make a sentry, and I already have it queued up. And then you also want to make a phoenix. So, okay. Right. Yeah, I'll go into more detail once again after I've gone through the build order. Sentry is coming. Phoenix is starting. You're going to chrono boost the Stargate a bunch. Basically, whenever it's not being chrono boosted, you want to chrono it. Just keep on chronoing it. Okay. Stargate number 1. I'm at Phoenix number 1. Back at home, we're not doing anything. There's nothing to do here. Just, you're going to make 3 Phoenix. You're going to keep chrono boosting. The first thing you want to do with your Phoenix is hunt for Overlords. We'll go into more detail afterwards. I'm really trying not to get sidetracked right now. Still not started Warp Gate. This is not a mistake. We need all of the gas that we are currently mining for the Stargate units. Okay, your Mothership Core and Zealot aren't too important in this phase of the game. Again, I'm trying not to get sidetracked. Oh god, it's hard. Okay, so Phoenix. So right now, let's look at the unit stab. 3 Phoenix. After you have your 3 Phoenix out, you want to make a Void Ray. And still at home, we've only just now started Warp Gate. As soon as you can afford your first Void Ray, you can go ahead and start Warp Gate. You do not want to delay any Stargate units. It's really important, and you do not need Warp Gate until much later. So this is why that sort of makes sense. Still making some workers. We're not really chrono boosting the Nexus right now. It's like if you have excess minerals, like right now I could probably start chrono boosting because I'm only going to make 1 more Void Ray out of this Stargate. So, okay. Still nothing else coming out of the gateway, just making Nexus. I have not added on a gas yet. In fact, I won't be adding on a gas. Alright, this is unnecessary, walling off completely. But I'll get into that more later. And then from here, the build is... it's much less complex from here, I would say. Basically, what you want to do is... So we have both Void Rays paid for. So we've already started our second Void Ray. This is all we're going to make, potentially, for the rest of the game. And so at this point, when you can afford it, you want a Twilight Council and a Forge. It's important to not delay this too much. The reason is because we want to get charge and +1 attack as soon as we can. But at the same time, we don't want to really cut pro production, and we also do not want to delay a Void Ray. So, okay. And then I guess the last thing to mention, or not the last thing, but one important thing to mention is look at my workers count. I'm at 36. I have 16 mining the minerals at the main. I know it says 15, it's because one of these guys is supposed to be doing that. And then I have 12 currently at the natural. You really, I would say, go up to 14 on the natural. That would be my recommendation. In this game, I'm pretty sure I go to 16. And the reason is because you're going to pull 2 probes off gas. And we'll talk about that later. Okay. Okay, so these 2 buildings are your next key decision, the next key to remember for the build. And then you're just adding gateways. This is going to be a 2-base all-in with charge shots and +1 attack. And you're going up to 8 gateways. It's pretty simple from here. You're just making the gateways when you can afford them. Try to remember to have a probe out on the map. If you keep your Stargate and pylons alive, you can use this as well. But this is not a close enough proxy, so you should get a pylon closer. And, okay, so that is the build order for this particular build. In the next video, we're going to look at this replay, the same replay, but we're going to talk about other things that go on throughout the game. And then also other things that are important to talk about. So, we'll start that up. Alright, so now that we have the step-by-step build order out of the way, we can start to look at some of the other aspects of the video, I guess. And to start off, I figured I would explain the build order out so it makes more sense to you, and also explain some of my logic that I have with the different decisions that I make. But we'll start off with this map in particular. So in this current season's ladder map pool, this is the only map that I do this build on. And the reason is not because it's a good map. In fact, I think it's a pretty bad map for this build. But the reason is because the build is good enough to make it work. But also because one really key feature to keep in mind is how far away is the Zerg's third base from their natural. So the idea of this build is to do really early harassment damage with units that Zergs have a hard time answering, or having an answer for. And so a lot of this build does revolve around denying your opponent from taking a third base. And so if we think about these two options for a third base, from the Zerg's perspective, both of which are very far apart from their natural, which means it takes lots of creep spread to get to them, which of course creep spread is what allows queens to maneuver around. And queens, as we all know, are one of Zerg's two options at anti-air early in the game. They have queens and they have spore crawlers. Both are very immobile, and so this build abuses that basically to its fullest extent, pretty much. And, okay, so now, why does this make sense? Right here. Well, we do want to expand eventually, and so we are going to want to wall off. And as you have noticed while watching the build order, we don't really make very many buildings after these three structures, the Stargate, Cybernetics Core, and Gateway, for a while. And so we don't want to be adding on, you know, let's say we build a Gateway and Cyber in our base. Yes, it makes us infinitely safer versus early Zergling cheeses, but it also means that this area is either going to be left pretty much wide open for a very long time, which leaves us vulnerable to lots of stuff, of course, or it means that we have to build additional gateways or forge to make up for the lack of these two buildings being here. And that will slow down the build a lot, which makes the follow-up anything much worse. So, in fact, it makes everything much worse. Like, the build just won't work. Okay, so, now, the next thing to understand is the scouting patterns. So, as you probably saw in the first part of this video, my probe makes the gateway, and then it runs off to the middle of the map to make the pylon at the watchtower. Now, another reason why this map is bad is because we don't know where our opponent spawns, and so if we want to do this build, we have two options. Either we can put the proxy near the middle of the map, thus it's not too far away from any spawn location, or we can take a gamble and say put it somewhere like here or here, so that way it's close to two bases, but still hidden out of the way. So now, of course, you might be thinking, well, can't you just scout earlier and see, you know, scout, let's say you scouted up here, he's not here, then make the proxy Stargate like over here or over here. That's definitely a possibility, but you lose a lot of mining time in doing so, scouting that early. And honestly, I'm not sure if the logistics actually work out, because you do need this the second pylon is the pylon you proxy on, of course, so you do need that down at a certain time. But okay. So after you make your pylon in the middle of the map, if you're playing a two-player map with this build, you can just go scout your opponent. Typically, I like to just see if they've got a natural base and a third base up. Like, typically, I think they can really only have a natural. So I just like to check. They have a natural. That means they're not doing anything cheesy. And after that, I run back to the pylon. And so, on this map, though, it's different. Because at this point, normally I wouldn't know where he is. Of course, I saw his overlord, so I changed my proxy location. But the logic behind scouting cross positions is that 99% of Zerg players that actually, there's only this person has scouted cross positions with his overlord, and it's because he's a map hacker. And I'm not going to get into detail about trying to prove why, but you'll have to take my word for it. But all of the other Zergs I've played scout either vertically or horizontally with their first overlord. And so if you scout cross map and they are not there, then you have a 50% chance of getting scouted by one of their overlords, which will indicate to you where they've spawned. If that doesn't happen, though, if you don't get scouted by an overlord, you can run your probe back to the Stargate. And then after you make your Stargate, you can then check for one of the two other spawn locations. And then at that point, it doesn't matter if you see them or not. The important thing is knowing where they've spawned. The advantage of scouting them first is also what you'll always be able to do on a two-player map, is that you can see when their third base timing is, you can see where they take their third base, and all of that is relatively useful information. And also, of course, like I said earlier, you can double-check that they have, in fact, taken a natural base. Okay, so the next thing that I've been struggling with, especially on this map, since this proxy location is not very good at all, is that you need to protect your proxy. Even if your opponent doesn't know it's there, which, like I said, this player is a map hacker, so he sends his Zerglings straight to the proxy. But even if your opponent does not know they are there, the proxy is there. Also, this overlord starts to run back before he sees the Stargate. But, alright, that's all I'm going to say about this. Or actually it's not, but it's relevant to later on. So, even if your opponent does not know where your Stargate is, you need to be ready to defend it. And that's also why having the second pylon go down on the Stargate is important, instead of it going here, but we already mentioned that. So, I think we did. You know what, I really can't remember if I did. Anyway, your third pylon should be on the Stargate, your fourth pylon should be here. Okay, cool. So, you're gonna have this one zealot and one mothership core, and it's their job to both protect your natural and protect the Stargate. So what I've decided is best is to have the zealot positioned around here, and have the mothership core positioned around here. Now this is gonna seem very odd, or very peculiar positions to have your units, but the reasoning is that if your opponent goes for a speedling all-in, or a heavy speedling aggression, you want to both be able to, or you want to be able to defend your natural, right? Like, your Stargate can lose, like, it can die. Like, you can afford to have that happen. But if they get through your natural, then you're going to lose. On the other hand, let's say they send like 6 Zerglings very quickly to your Stargate position. You need units close enough to there to defend that as well. So your mothership core and your probe can both scout for where their Zerglings are going to head to on the map. So let's say he sends a bunch of links to my natural. My zealot will be here. I can run him back to the natural position, hold position, get a sentry out. Mothership core can come over here, overcharge, and I should be okay. And then let's say he goes to the pylon. You want your mothership core close enough so that it can get over there, start deterring the Zerglings, and then your zealot can come up from behind and help out. So that is the logic in that. Okay. Let's put it on my vision for now. So this sentry is here for extra defense. Normally I delay this much longer, as I mentioned. Okay, now one other tactic you can do, which I guess I really am not going to suggest you do it, but if you move out on the map with these two units, and they are not intending on doing some sort of heavy speeding aggression, then they're going to just be worried about defending versus these two units as opposed to scouting around the map for your proxy Stargate. So attacking out with these two units before they scout your Stargate, or basically as soon as you have them, is a good way to keep your Stargate hidden, but I would only suggest that if you know that they aren't going to do some sort of speedling aggression, which you can scout for. So if you do scout them and you see no gas was taken in their main base early on, which means they can't have an early speed, which means they can't do a speedling attack, then I guess this is fine. But I'll let you guys play around with that, because I don't have a ton of experience versus speedling all-ins, to be honest, with this build. But we will be looking at some speedling stuff later on in the next replays. Okay, so this unit positioning I would say I disagree with. You don't need to be out here with these guys. It's just kind of risky. But the Phoenix, his job right now, the first Phoenix, is going to fly around. You'll see I have him queued up, and he's just checking for overlords right now. Now, whether or not your opponent has seen your Stargate does not change the fact that your first Phoenix should go out on the map and try to kill overlords on his side of the map first. So the reason is because if he has overlords on my side of the map, they're just dead, right? They can't get back to his base in time. You should be able to know the general position of these overlords, and so you can kill those with your later Phoenix. But with your first Phoenix, if there's an overlord caught out of position, like this guy, so like I said, because he's hacking, he brought him back earlier. Normally he would still be running back around here, and so this Phoenix could kill him. And there may even be more overlords around their base as well. So, but until you have both Void Rays out, your Phoenix are primarily just killing overlords, and it's very, very, very important you do not lift anything else unless you can kill a queen. You do not want drone kills. It takes too much energy, and you will need that energy for queen lift-ups later on. So, okay, this guy, you can see this is my second Phoenix made. He's going around for some overlord kills. This is my third Phoenix made. At this point, if there's an overlord that, let's say right now I see this overlord. Let's say I see one after this, or I don't know. Basically, the third Phoenix, I usually just help out a different Phoenix kill an overlord. I'm not really trying to find Phoenix or OVs for him to kill as well, because you need to have your 3 Phoenix with your 2 Void Rays as soon as you have them out. So I guess that's really the important thing to take away. But okay, I'm not really chrono boosting workers right now. I can't remember if I said this or not. I have said it once. I don't know if it was like when I messed up on my first edit or outtake, I guess. Okay, let me just check my notes as someone suggested I use. Okay, I guess we're gonna continue to see this play out, but it is very important to not overextend with your air units. And the reason for this is because your follow-up all-in is going to be a charge lot based all-in, so mainly charge lots. And so what you're basically anticipating is that the Zerg player is going to make Hydralisks to defend this. They might make Infestors, but again, your charge lots should be good versus them. Let's actually elaborate a little bit on this. So the reason why it's important to not lose too many of your air units is because if you, let's just say you lose everything, right? Then your opponent no longer feels threatened versus air units, so maybe they don't make Hydras. If they're not making Hydras, chances are your charge lot all-in is not going to be very strong, right? Charge lots with +1 attack are good versus Zerglings and Hydras. You do not really want them to make Roaches. Void Rays are a good deterrent of that. Even if they do make Roaches, Void Rays are good at killing Roaches, so you should be okay still. And then you can, so normally I would pull 2 workers out of gas to do the all-in. Like, right when I have enough gas for +1 attack and charge, I pull 2 workers out just to get a little bit more mineral income. I cut workers at 14 at the natural, and then Maynard them over there. If, let's say, your opponent's going for roaches, you can leave your guys in gas and get some more stalkers in your composition. Like, these are sort of judgment calls you're going to have to make as the build plays out. So, okay. So, normally I only really try to get any real damage done with my Void Race when I have both of them out, but if you can do some damage here and there, definitely go for it. So, the other thing I want to say is, normally, your Zerg opponent is going to take a third base at a normal time. Of course, they don't have to. Like, they could be planning on doing a 2-base build and going for whatever they would go for then. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, if they do a normal play, your build is going to kill the hatchery 9 out of 10 times. And on this map, it should happen 10 out of 10 times. You should be able to kill their third base every single time if they make it really any amount earlier than this. Even now, I should have scouted this earlier, and I should have been able to kill it. You'll see how close I get to killing it with the late scout. But basically, your first priority with this is kill his third base. If your opponent delays his third base to the point where you have both Void Rays out, and there's no third base, then you try to do damage elsewhere, and we'll see that play out as well. But after you kill this third base, you do want to continue on into their territory. Try to kill anything you can. Void Rays, 2 Void Rays are really powerful versus the weak anti-air that Zerg has early game, or immobile is the more important word. And then again, these Phoenix are here for the Queen lift-ups. We will see this strategy play out in the next 3 replays as well, so I know I'm sort of making a bunch of assumptions of what can happen, but we'll see that play out in the future 3 videos. So, third base is up, I'm going to prioritize that. Both Void Rays charge up on the third. Now, normally, what you'll see is Queens are really all they have to defend. This guy had Hydralisks because, you know why. Really sloppy play right there. I wasn't expecting him to have Hydras this fast, because this almost never happens. That's my excuse. 2 Time Warps, barely not enough to kill this. I maybe could have sacked both Void Rays to kill it. Probably not, though. But okay. So, because he has Hydras, I really can't go into his bases too much to try to deal damage. So instead, I'm just going to pull back. And then... Okay, so I've made my gateways. I've got my upgrades coming. If he tried to move across the map right now with this group of units, you can just pull back here, use an overcharge, and your gateways will be up soon enough to defend. But of course, that's not what we're doing, so we're going to meet up at our pylons. I'm really surprised he didn't try to kill these earlier. But okay. So he's got the composition that we want him to have, Hydras and Zerglings. These +1 attack zealots are going to deal with those. And then if you made roaches, again, Void Rays can deal with those, as well as extra Stalker Warpins. I've only made 1 sentry this game. Force fields aren't all that great in this scenario, so really just Guardian Shield, maybe use 2 force fields if you can hit some good ones. Not really much else to talk about with that, but yeah, only 1 sentry. They just cost too much gas for this type of all-in. Alright. Units are not staying together. Spore Callers are kind of annoying because you don't really want your air units to fly over them. But you just do normal Protoss all-in stuff. So, okay. Alright, I'm just letting this game conclude because I do want to show you the finish of it. Remember, no 3rd and 4th gas. Wall off completely. Make sure you have enough gateways. Okay, let's go into the next replay. Okay, so this is the second replay I want to show. Obviously, this is no longer Iron Fortress. The last 2 replays will both be on that map. But because I discourage you from trying to macro on Iron Fortress, I want to show you what a macro game looks like with this build. And also, these 2-player maps are sort of the more typical maps that I would recommend this build on. And so I want to show just sort of, once again, my general setup. So let's back up a little bit, because I did skip over it. You notice the proxy location. The reason why this makes sense is because his third base is going to be here, so I want my proxy to be close to it, but not so close that he's going to scout it. So yeah, you're going to have to do some testing with that yourself, I think, to figure out what the best location is. But once again, like putting it over here or here, or like up here, I think all these places are too close and too obvious to scout for. So like over here or here is what I would suggest. Even maybe in this corner, but that might be a little bit too close as well. So okay, so once again, Mothership Core. This guy is going to go out front. He's the zealot near the wall. You know, ideally it should be a little bit further forward. Mothership Core a little bit further forward. Try to control the watchtower if possible, so maybe your probe can give vision, and then have a second pylon here. Those are some of the small mistakes I made this game. This was a while ago though, so alright, get off my back, man. But again, first Phoenix, looking for overlords on his side of the map. Second Phoenix, looking for overlords on my side of the map. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time in this early game because we already went over this in good detail, I think. This game, my opponent was not a map hacker, so that was very fortunate. He took a much faster third base than the other person, but he still delayed it. He still went for speed. He already has speed done. He went for gas before third base, so that way he could play safe versus whatever shenanigans I was going to do. Because of course you have to remember that your opponent can see your very late Nexus with their first overlord, if they happen to go to your natural. So they're going to know something's up. But okay, so we're going to see how this normally plays out at this third base location. So I think I can kill this queen. My Void Ray is getting here. Now, of course, my second Void Ray is not here, but I feel like I can take favorable engagements and try to hurt the queen count. So queens are the #1 defense versus this build. That and making lots of spore crawlers, but lots of spore crawlers is doing a lot of indirect damage just in itself. So what's really good to do is to kill these queens one by one when you have the opportunity. 3 Phoenix, of course, do not kill a queen with 1 lift, so you will need to re-lift it. If you're not going to lose a Phoenix in the process of doing that, then it's totally good to do. So I'm killing these queens. He's just sending them to me 2 by 2. It's the alternate version of Noah's Ark. Okay, that's my humor for this video, so I hope you guys enjoy it. But okay, and the Void Rays are coming. They're coming. Killing queens. At this point, I think he's finally realized he's not going to defend this base, so I'm just going to go ahead and take it out. Void Ray. Okay, so that's normally how this will play out. Now, back at home, you will notice a lot of differences. First things first, we didn't actually get to see this, but okay, I have yet to start Warp Gate, that's a mistake, but this sentry came out much later. It was only recently made. It has 63 energy. Energy accumulates close to 1 energy per 2 seconds. It's actually a little bit faster. So this came out about 10 seconds ago. As you can see, that's really late. It's 8:30 into the game right now. Okay, and then the other key difference, if you want a macro, is this third gas is already down. The fourth gas will come fairly soon. And the reason is because most of the time your opponent is going to make Hydras. What kills Hydras? Well, we talked about Charge All-In can work, for sure, with +1 attack to deal with the Lings. But also Colossus, that's the other obvious answer, I think. And so we're going to go Colossus. We're going to blind counter their next most likely transition. Or, I mean, I sort of phrased that incorrectly, but you understand. And then a Forge. I like to get the Forge, get the upgrades going. The upgrades are definitely late, but, you know, you can't have everything. You can't have everything, God! But, okay. Making some units, Mothership Core. Usually I keep the Mothership Core with these units, but of course, if you're getting counterattacked, you know, it's great defensively, obviously. I would probably recommend not using a Time Warp. I did this game, but being able to recall home and then overcharge is obviously very helpful. If it's like a big counterattack, just recall everything. That's their that's like their all-in, basically, if it's a really big counterattack. So, not killing the space is fine. You can kill it later. They're delaying their lair by a lot, which means, again, they're going to have a hard time defending versus these 2 Void Rays and 3 Phoenix. Okay. Adding some gateways. At this point, aside from what you should be trying to do with these air units, it's really just a normal game at this point, right? You're getting your robo. They're most likely going to go for Hydras, or Infestors is the other option. Again, Colossus are good versus that. It used to be that Swarm Host was another option. Colossus are also good versus that, but the new Swarm Host now is not viable, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, we're just taking a third base when we feel safe. Ideally, you're going to get ahead with this build. I mean, you can say that for every build, but if you don't get like early cheese and all in, then chances are you're going to be ahead, so you can take your third base a little bit faster than maybe normal. But, you know, feel free to delay it as long as you feel like it's necessary. In the meantime, I'm doing two important things. Just because I killed his third base does not mean I cannot do extra damage. So until he has Hydras or a good queen count, he really can't do much about the Void Rays in his base. And then also the other thing you saw was that I did a little bit of scouting with the Phoenix. Normally you're going to see Hydra, but he's going for Infestors, I guess. Okay. I think the really only thing that's important to scout for there is if he's going for a Spire. And the way to deal with Mutas is just to not lose your Phoenix, and then to make more Phoenix. And probably a second Stargate. Okay, well, that is going to wrap up this replay pretty much. Third base when you feel safe. And yeah, I mean, the rest is, you know, it plays out like a normal game. So, okay. Let's go ahead and hop into the next replay. We're going to see 2 more videos, like I said. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is the third replay that I want to show you guys. Time to succeed. Okay. This replay is going to show how to clap and also how to play versus early speedling rushes. So, you will notice something is coming true as I predicted. The prophet, the truth. I scout cross. He's not here, but his overlord, 50-50 chance of scouting me, does scout me, so I know where he is now. Now, the other thing I want to show, which is why we're starting this replay so early, is that this stuff, these two buildings are the indicators of this particular speedling all-in will be happening. And I just want to show that this was, in fact, premeditated murder. He did not react to me having this awful wall, which thus makes it a blind counter. So that's really all I'm trying to get at. Like, it's not like the Zerg player can really react to your wall and decide, oh, I'm going to get speedling now because I have infinite gas available to me at all times. No, that's not how it works, of course. Okay, so I'm not going to watch too much about what I'm doing. You'll notice he still doesn't have a natural, so this is where, if this is a 2-player map, you can see, does he have a natural? No. Let's panic. Or if you scout him first, does he have a natural? No. Let's panic. Actually, this probe should have went to the natural, and I should be panicking, but I scouted for third base and not his natural, so even worse for me. There goes his natural. So I think this is like not really an all-in, but still very high pressure. If you want to do an all-in, he wouldn't take the space, as you might imagine. Okay, so militia corps on the way. Zealot is out now. I'm not gonna have. I don't have a probe down here. I don't know this is happening. There's no way I can defend this easily, I guess. So let's go ahead. I see this happening. Let's do something new and put this on my player cam. We're just gonna see exactly how I sort of micro. I'm trying to hug near my buildings on the low ground with the Zealot. I don't want the Zealot to get surrounded, of course. Okay. Not sure if this camera thing is working as I thought it would. Okay. I swear my screen's not off the units that often. Alright, I'm not canceling the builds because I'm stubborn. But, you know what you can also sort of assume is, if this was a one-base all-in, you're going to die anyway. Like, I think canceling the build and desperately making stuff isn't going to save you if he was doing a completely committed all-in. Okay, Mushroom Core. So losing that Zealot there is sloppy for sure. You can pull workers and help it fight. But I did not do that. He loses all his links here. That doesn't seem like it was... that might have really been where he really went wrong. I think. Let's see if he kills this pylon. If he kills the pylon, then it didn't really matter, to be honest. I think that was probably the proper move then, if he does end up killing this pylon. So, okay, we don't have to look at my micro anymore. That wasn't really... That didn't go as well as I thought it would. Alright, overcharge. So I guess the important thing is... Let's put up the production tab. So from here, you're not really following the build order anymore, right? You're following the general idea of the build, but you're not following, oh, okay, I make a Nexus, then Phoenix, and then blah, blah, blah. You're doing what makes sense in your current situation. So in this particular game, I made a Phoenix before the Nexus. Personally, I think that's a mistake. I should have probably made the Nexus first, but again, it's going to differ game to game. However, I'm assuming I'm going to follow the same build. I'm assuming. He's desperately checking everywhere for a Stargate, but not the Watchtower. That's pretty funny. Okay. I should kill this, but whatever. It's not really important to this particular part of the video. Sentry's here for defense. Zealot's here for defense. Militia Corps, Zealot. I made 2 Zealots, so I figured let's do the logical thing. Leave one at home, leave one at the proxy. Okay. And then we're going to do exactly what we've seen already. Once again, I'm not going to lift any drones. I do not want to waste my energy. You will sometimes run out of energy while just fighting queens, and so you do not want that to happen under any circumstance. Voiders are coming out. He's seen this for quite a bit now. Of course, because he's seen the Phoenix flying around. But I guess he's also seen the Void Ray. I'm surprised he even tried to take a third base. I think he just wasn't sure how to play versus this, to be honest. Okay, he's going to kill this, but that's fine. With this particular build, you can make a third Void Ray after you start charge and after you start your +1 attack, but it's not necessary. And it's really only going to be that helpful if they have roaches in their composition. But again, not necessary. Alright, he's trying to pressure here. Again, I can recall if I need to. I kill his natural. I didn't realize I did that in this game. That's pretty funny. But that's the sort of damage you can do until they have Hydras or enough Queens or Spores everywhere. So, but alright, at this point there's nothing he can do. I guess I was so no, okay. I was going to say, did I really try to do more harassment? But no. Alright, so that is this replay. And then in the last replay, it gets crazier. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever I feel like talking about. Alright, so let's wrap this video up with what to do when you can't do the build. And this is really specifically talking about this map in particular. On other maps, you can just abandon the build and do whatever you think is best. Whatever you like to do in PvZ, that's what you should try to do. We're going to see how you can determine when you should abandon the build, and also what your follow-up should be on this map, at least what my advice would be if you want to try to gain an advantage before winning the game. So, of course, after you abandon the build, you could go into a 2-base all-in. Again, I would not recommend taking a third base at these locations. It's just so inefficient to take it and defend it. I think you're just playing from behind if you do that, no matter what build you do. You know, unless it's like a really specific build tailored for this map. So, okay. We're going to see what I do, and we're going to see how he sees it. So, let's talk about his build this game. He went for a very standard spawning pool after natural, but spawning pool before his third hatchery. Because he has no gas, he is intending on making a third hatchery fairly soon. Ignore this. Who to play? Not bad. His first language is in English. Alright, look, he wasn't my first choice for the person to interrupt me this replay. Okay, just let it be. Anyway, so he sends his first 4 Zerglings at the Watchtower. My Zealot is out, but it only came out a little bit ago. So actually, let's go ahead and see. Whoa, shots fired. So, Zerglings, if normally what I would expect, like this is a really weird move. Why would you send all your lings to the Watchtower? What I would expect if they're going to check the Watchtower is send 1 Zergling, maybe 2. And in that case, I think you can keep this Pylon alive, and thus you can continue on with the build. Now, of course, there's other scenarios where you won't be able to make a Stargate, And so what you're going to see in the rest of this replay will address those as well. Okay, so the links get here. I just run my probe. I can make the Stargate, but this Pylon is going to die. The Zealot comes out too late. Mothership Core comes out too late. Okay, so what is the plan from here? Just going to expand, and like I said, do whatever you like to do on 2 bases. Do whatever you like to do on 2 bases, but where you intend to take a 3rd base, and you'll see how we go about that. Okay. Alright, so the replay from this point on for the next couple minutes isn't really all that important. Okay, but we're just going to see, I guess, how exactly I play this out, because we're going to watch it anyway! So I go for Stargate anyway. I honestly don't really recommend this, but again, whatever you feel like you want to do, that should be okay. Killing Overlords. Alright, this is too fast for anyone. Anyone in the whole world. Actually, I will mention one thing. With the transition that we're going to go for, you do not want them to go for Mutalisk. And so in that sense, maybe Phoenix is the way to go. I haven't really thought about this before until just right now. But maybe Phoenix really is your best bet to open with Phoenix, because you don't want them to go Mutalisk. And the reason is because of this bad boy. So, on 4-player maps, every single spawn has this tight choke ramp. I didn't say that right, but whatever. Which means one force field blocks it off. Which means Zerg ground units cannot get access to this base aside from going up this ramp. Of course, there's Nidus Worms and Overlord drops, but those are so uncommon, and you can also defend against Nidus Worms even if they go for them. Overlord drops would be weird to go cross-spawn with them. And a lot of 4-player maps are pretty big, so Overlord drops are less effective because of that. So, okay. So why take a ninja? Because, like I said, 3rd base at the normal place is so inefficient to try to defend. In the ninja, yes, it's an awkward base to both defend and get your probes there, but it's a much safer base. Thus, you can take it faster and invest less in defense, considering this map is so bad for your normal 3rd base. This is my general wall. Any way you want to wall this is fine, but I like to fully wall this. And then the next question, of course, is, well, you're really just going to make probes 1 by 1 at that base? Hell nah. Okay, I've gone too far. I've gone too far, but alright. So what I like to do, migration of the probes. I like to recall my workers to the base. This game I've recalled way too many. But, so yeah, you oversaturate these 2 bases, recall to this base, and then continue on mining. You lose very little mining time while doing this. And the plus side is, if your opponent doesn't scout that, does not scout your ninja, they're going to think 2 base all in, especially on this map. I'm assuming most Protoss players that even dare to play this map will do lots of 2 base all ins. So the Zerg is going to be extra paranoid about that, and less paranoid about could he have a ninja base. And really, aside from that ninja, I don't really do anything significant that I want to point out. But I guess I will show one scenario that can happen. Now, this is already very specific. If your Stargate gets denied, what do you do? But honestly, I like taking this strategy. I think is viable versus Zerg, regardless of what build you go for initially. So if it's something you want to try out, I figured why not tack on to the end of this video. As we get to that, let me do some closing thoughts. Thanks for watching. That's the first one, of course. If you like this video, I hope you guys check out some more of my content. And again, I unfortunately didn't have a PvP video that I felt was ready to show you yet. Because of this, I'm going to really work towards wrapping my PvP videos up, getting the rest of the content that I want to show for these videos. In the meantime, I'm going to keep on posting content to the channel. Hopefully I'll have a video up soon, of course. And yeah, there's not a whole lot left to talk about. I'm very close to having other people join me on this channel, and you might even see a video with one of them before this video gets posted. Who knows? But yeah, I think that'll be cool. So, as always, guys, leave me some feedback. Let me know where I can improve. If there's something you want to see extra as well, like I've been suggested to put the build order in the comments, I'm probably going to start doing that for sure. And I've also been suggested to attach replays somehow. I don't know how to do this yet. I'll look into it. To either the comments, or if I make a Reddit post with each new build order video, I will maybe attach a replay to that. I feel like that would definitely be helpful, for sure. So, okay. As you see, I moved out on the map. Recall is available. If he wants to stay and run into force fields all day, he's just going to lose everything. So, okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.